Gary Bunny, I'm CEO of MDS, and I'm going to start by making two commitments to you. The first is I will not overrun, and the second is I won't use the next 15 minutes as an advertisement for my company, which I promise you I'll hardly mention. We're here today because we think the communications industry, your industry, is right now at an inflection point. We think the time is right for MVNOs. The time is right for MVNOs to seize the day. So what I want to do in this next 15 minutes is to one, focus on the opportunity that we think is here right now. Two, spotlight markets that we think offer MVNOs the best chance of success. And thirdly, suggest the steps that you need to take in order to win in those markets. But I can kind of hear you saying, isn't the market saturated? Well, yeah, it is. Only 20 million subscribers will be added in Europe over the next 3 years. Revenues are 1% a year up or flat, but always at risk from cannibalization, from more cannibalization from the OTT players. And yeah, mobile data is exploding, but you're not getting the margins on mobile data that you would have done 2 or 3 years ago, so it's all dependent on your wholesale agreement. And yeah, the situation is a bit better in Asia, 600 million subscribers being added in Asia in this period. But there, the problem is more about ARPU. Many of those 600 million will be from the poorer countries and from the poorer segments within those countries. And for all markets, there is a massive challenge, and you all know it from the OTT messaging players. 2.5 billion users now use messaging. Facebook, WhatsApp, WeTalk, Line, Kakao, Apple. You know, that where before those users would have been using SMS. So you'll see on the slide that 85% of people in Spain now communicate by over-the-top messaging, whereas before they would have done it by SMS. And it's not just SMS that's being cannibalized. These messaging systems are more and more being used for voice. Just a quick show of hands. How many people in the audience occasionally use WhatsApp for voice? Always. There we are. So that's at least 50 or 60% of an MVNO audience that is using an over-top player for voice. So you can see the threat. So how can we talk then about this being such a massive opportunity when the market's so well trodden and so saturated? But didn't we think the same about the transport industry? Every major town had a plethora of taxi companies, all doing very much the same thing, transporting people from A to B, the only difference in the service being one of maybe cost and one of the quality of the car. But then along came Uber, who owned no cars. They allegedly employ no employees, and yet they changed the whole market. Now they have twice the market share in New York as the yellow cabs. Or the hotel industry, dominated worldwide by the major brands, Starwoods, Marriott, Accor, and supplemented by big domestic brands as well. Where was the room for another hotel player to come in and create and dominate a big part of that market? Well, there wasn't one if there were just going to be a standard hotel chain, but that's not what Airbnb did. They certainly own no hotel rooms, they certainly have no employees, and yet in just a few years, they offer almost twice the number of rooms that Marriott do. They have twice the valuation that Marriott have, and they're in almost twice as many countries. And Amazon, Deliveroo are other examples. So these guys, particularly Uber and Deliveroo and Airbnb, they don't own assets. But the really interesting thing for this audience is their business model would not be possible without the mobile phone. Uber is all about the mobile phone. You book the cab, you trace its arrival on your phone, you pay for it on your phone, you rate the driver on the phone. Uber could not be thought of without mobile telecoms. So your industry is doing a wonderful job of helping other industries to transform on a massive scale. And yet the experience users have of the communication industry hasn't really followed suit. If you think about it, our experience as a user isn't a lot different to what it might have been 5 or 10 years ago. We still have a rigid monthly plan, still have bill shock at the end of the month. We still try and contact service agents hanging on the line for 10 plus minutes. What Uber and Airbnb demonstrate is the fact that the market is saturated is not the barrier, is not the hurdle to the opportunity. The opportunity is that the market is underserved and is ready and crying out for a service provider who delivers a 2017 Uber-type experience in the mobile communication space. And some service providers across the world are doing that and succeeding. ID Mobile here in the UK launched just over 2 years ago. The UK, as you all know, is a very crowded market, 130+% saturated. But in just over 2 years, ID Mobile have the best part of 750,000 of subscribers. And they're still growing. And they've achieved that without spending major marketing dollars. There's no TV advertising. There's no advertising in the press. So how do they do it? Well, they don't offer prepay or postpay. It's all pay. It is completely real time, so you know your charges down to the second and you're in control. And most importantly, you manage your own package. You select your data. You choose whether to roll it over at the end of the month or not. And you configure the entirety of your own package. You're in control, you manage it. And there are a few other innovators across the world that are similarly disrupting the markets that they're in by delivering a 2017 experience. Circles is an operator in Singapore, it's an MVNO in Singapore. Singapore is probably a more crowded, more saturated market than the UK or most countries in Europe. And yet they started off from scratch. They're up to now, I think, 30,000 subscribers, and they're expanding from Singapore across Asia. And they've done that in exactly the same way as ID Mobile. It's real time. They've given their users control of the totality of their experience, a totally digital experience. So if you provide the service that everybody wants, there is a massive opportunity. So what is the essence of that service? Well, it's a true digital experience, as user-friendly and as controllable to the user as Uber is. A recent Capgemini study of the millennial Generation X and Y market revealed that 58% of those guys would swap to a digital operator or digital MVNO tomorrow if they had the opportunity. And the really great thing about this audience is that if they like the service that they get and they use it, they will self-publicize it on social network. So it cuts down your costs of having service agents. You won't need service agents. They don't understand why there should ever be a service agent. They will configure their own service. And it cuts down your acquisition costs of new customers. They'll do it for you. So 58% would change tomorrow if they had the option, but there aren't many options. Only about 6 to 10% of MVNOs worldwide are truly digital and offer the sort of experience that these guys would want to switch to. So it's a big opportunity, which MVNOs are not exploiting. But there's also other new markets developing. The SME SOHO market is fast growing. 80% of new jobs are created in SMEs and SOHOs. 96% of all businesses across the EU are SMEs or SOHOs. And these guys want different services. The distinction between IT services and communication services isn't what it was. These guys would like to buy all of their communication services from a single source, along with some IT services. So ordering a Microsoft 365 license, a bit of storage. But they can't do that today. Research by Telesperience identified that the average number of employees in an SME across Europe is actually 6 people. But they take their communication service from 2.3 providers. So 1 for mobile, 1 for broadband, etc. And very few of them have any options for buying any IT services from those communication service providers. So it's a big growth market, and it's a market that's changing because there's blurring of the distinction between comms and IT. But what makes it a really huge opportunity for this audience is that it is very poorly served. For the last 10, 20 years, the MNOs, the network operators, yeah, they've been focused on the business market, but they've been focused on what they see as the jewel in the crown, the really big enterprise market, the Shells, the HSBCs of this world. That's 45,000 companies across Europe, as opposed to the 20 million that aren't. Because of that focus on the jewel in the crown, they've really disregarded this market. And as a result, there's no loyalty in it. Of the guys surveyed, and there was 100 plus SMEs surveyed, only 10% had no plan to change their service provider next year. And actually, when you talk to the network operators, the MNOs and the NOs, they know they're not doing a good job. Only 10% think they're serving this market well. And there's another brand new market that's developing right now as well as part of this business market, the IoT market. 32 billion devices connected over the next few years. 5 times as many as phones. But the connectivity element is a small part of the value that we're talking about. The real value is in the service enablement, because it's about the application that is being bought by businesses, not just the connectivity that they need. So each industry application will demand different commercial dynamics. Pay by kilometer, pay by call out, pay by security image downloaded from CCTV cameras. And all of those transactional elements mixed in with a weekly and monthly subscription charge. So IoT monetization is absolutely going to be crucial to this game. And that's the hallmark of a virtual operator. It's another excellent opportunity for VNOs to use their agility to dynamically support these different applications with services that suit the specific market niches. So the question is, how can MVNOs seize this moment and attack these markets, consumer, business, IoT, quickly and profitably? Well, our experience covers a variety of MVNOs, from existing resellers to new disruptors, to MVNOs focused on the consumer or the business segment that are part of bigger brands, such as retailers. So they all start at different points. But the first step, if you're an existing MVNO with an existing base, is to optimize your business now. Don't fly blind. Use analytics to optimize wholesale costs. Use analytics to understand who might be avoiding EU legislation for fair usage on Roam Like Home. Use analytics to detect possible fraud risks, and use analytics to detect those, to identify those customers who are likely to have the highest propensity to churn. So we, for example, provide a package of analytics reports off the shelf as a cloud-based service. We do that on a monthly basis, and we do that for less than the price of a programmer. Second step is to launch digital, and launch it now. So if you've got existing customers, leave that for a moment, launch a digital platform alongside. Forget the big transformations, first of all, that have dogged down the MNOs and the network operators for so many years. Look at the legacy a little later. Right now, it's far more important to seize the market by launching a digital platform. Select a partner, MDS is perhaps one of those, that can provide you with a platform as a service, so that you can launch and get to market quickly. Once you've launched your digital platform, then migrate those existing customers. You'll be able to give them a much better, more compelling experience. You'll be able to offer them hybrid offers. You'll be able to sell more efficiently and effectively. This year, we just completed a relatively small migration of 60,000 broadband users to a mobile network, and we've done migrations of several hundred thousand. So I think we've learnt some lessons, we've got some expertise, we're here today, so come and talk to us about that. We might be able to give some advice. And then, once you've got your digital platform and you've got your existing customers on it, deepen the relationship. You're no longer marketing to an anonymous SIM number, but to an account holder. Think about that account holder as part of a family, as part of a group. Think about that account holder as maybe being part of an SME. So bring in new services to appeal to accounts and offer new services such as some IT services, the ability to buy a Microsoft license, for example. So that means when you're selecting your platform, make sure your platform and your partner doesn't just support consumer, but has the ability to support more complex tariffs that are prevalent and needed when you're in an SME or business market. Make sure it's not only about billing for connectivity, but it's about billing for other events as well, such as miles for driven. And once you're in the market, use the mobile to empower your brand. So if you're a retailer, and many retailers have MVNO operations across the world, if you're a retailer, use the phone as an extension of your store space. Use it as a fundamental part of your loyalty scheme. But unless you want a big CapEx bill, I don't think you should do this by yourselves. I think Raymond on the panel earlier said that they had 20 people. Most MVNOs have relatively small numbers of people. So doing this and doing this properly requires deep expertise in analytics, working out fraud risks, working out which customers are most likely to churn, how you get new offers out into the market, how you detect potential attacks. So that requires deep expertise and expertise from a large number of people. So don't do it by yourself. Choose a partner that can provide that expertise with the technology. So not only do they provide you with the technology that they run, but can also do many of the business processes for you, detection of fraud, identification of churn risks, etc., leaving you free to focus on what you do best, which is running the business. So in short, you need a partner that supports this full journey. Choose a partner that provides an analytics-empowered BSS platform as a service. It has to be out of the box, has to have the full range of functionalities you need, can't just be post-pay or prepay, has to be real-time, it has to deal with family plans and with SME groups, as well as businesses. The system must offer all pay, has to be real time, and it has to be digital, has to put your users in control of their service. And this is a platform that ID Mobile use and has enabled them to win 700,000 subscribers in the last 2 years. And choose a partner as well that not only provides that as a service, but then can integrate his own platform, your platform, with the rest of your ecosystem. So your payment partners, for instance, integrate as part of the service stack and then manage that process. And then finally, a partner that will provide all of that as a service. We, for example, run every aspect of revenue management for many of our customers, and we run many of the processes that are part of their business. So we monitor for fraud risks, we manage the age debt process, we enable you to launch new tariffs into the market in a matter of days. I think the industry average at the moment is something like 3 months. So we get our customers to market quicker because they're using our expertise to do it. So just to finish, this year, Tesla overtook Ford as the most valuable vehicle manufacturer in the world. And Tesla produces a mere fraction of the vehicles that Ford produce. So it's a very similar parallel. A very crowded market. There's no shortage of motor cars across the world. There's no shortage of manufacturers. Nothing much radical has happened for many years. But Musk came along and had a very different way of looking at the market. He didn't just look at building a car, although he's done that, but he looked horizontally at a transport system, a power system, and designed the concept of transportation system for our children. So again, it's a company that entered the market very recently with very little assets, very few assets compared to its competition, that has changed the driving, that is changing the driving experience for all of us, and especially for our children. Sounds familiar? It's time for MVNOs to be more Musk, less MNO. Thank you very much.